Hello, my name is Anoa Changa.
The Way with Anoa. The Way with Anoa.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Woo! It's the end of the world, everybody. Welcome to Noah's End of the World party. This is the end or apocalypse now, however you wanna call it. Because let Hillary Clinton tell it. She's the only thing that can save us from the coming apocalypse. So just brace yourself because the end of the world is here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of The Way with Anoa. It is October 11th, 2016. We are exactly four Tuesdays from the 2016 general election. Are you excited? Can you feel it? Just to note, if you are on the optimistic side and you want to be a part of that, last-ditch effort to save humanity, there is a Green Party town hall. I believe it is happening on C-SPAN at 9. Stay tuned to the channel because Ben will be streaming and then we'll have extended coverage afterwards. So if you're the optimistic types out there, you're that last team of astronauts ready to go, make sure that big asteroid doesn't hit the planet Earth. Stay tuned. Check out what's going on with the Green Party afterwards. Or if you're terrified and you think that you got to go hunker down in the bunker, one of the 2 million who gets selected, talking about Deep Impact. Have you ever seen Deep Impact? It's a good movie. I really think we should talk about our favorite, forget the show. We're just going to talk about our favorite apocalyptic movies and experiences, right? No, I'm just joking. But in Deep Impact, they pick 2 million people by lottery or whatever. There's important people, and they put them in some cavern is the plan. Right, it's part of the plan. Everybody else, you're on your own because the federal government only planned for this small group of people, and most of them are artists, military folks, and the government. So why am I talking about the end of the world? Well, kind of wasn't what I was going to talk about this night. There's always some great news, and I love lifting up the work of local activists and other people and issues that's going on, but so much crap has just been dropped in our laps in the last, several days since the last time I spoke with you here at The Way. If you did not get a chance to check out the presidential debate Sunday night, definitely, or if you did and you want to hear a different viewpoint than what you've heard so far, check out my podcast, my latest podcast with Dr. Trisha Callender of Spanner Strategies. We chopped it up, and that will be up this evening along with this show on the website. So definitely that'll drop as well. So definitely check that out. So we've had several different dumps from Jean Podesta's emails. We've had the Trump nonsense, right? And apparently there is an article in the New York Times Magazine where I quote Hillary Clinton, because that's what the author of the article does. She states, and of course this is tongue in cheek, he's making humor light of the situation. But when you look at what is happening with the Democratic Party, what is coming out of the party, ever since it's been building up, right? And we're almost at the climax of all of this with this notion that Donald Trump is not just a catastrophe. He's not just an idiot. He's not just a buffoon. He really is, the second coming of, the anti whatever you believe in, whatever it is, or the first coming, whatever you believe in. He's going to bring all humanity and all civilization to an end. That is really how they act. Now, never mind that this is the crap show of their own creation, right? I had a great opportunity to talk with Brian Becker of Loud and Clear, along with his producer, Walter Spolerick. Walter, forgive me if I mispronounced your last name. But we were talking about whose fault is at this point we're at right now, right? Because politically, this is a crap fest. I mean, in the last 72 hours, we have had major actors within the Republican National Committee, within the Republican Party, pulling their support from the nominee. When has that happened? Like, on the eve of election, when have we seen, the party, sucked it up and got behind him? He's been a crap show since he ran. He was a crap show when he ran the first time, but he was a joke. He regrouped, got some advice from his golf buddy, Bill, his bestie. We're going to get into that too. They love to ham it up and talk crap about women together, apparently. Ben. I'm on a roll here and it's just all coming out. But Bill, Trump, DT, it don't get nobody off the hook. You can't throw nobody else under the bus to save you, bro. Like, nah. Like Bill's in another category of himself, and that does need to be talked about. We're gonna get into all of this tonight because I'm tired. I'm so sick and tired. And you know what? The only thing that stands between us and ruin is us. Let's just be all real. It is us. It is those of us who are willing to call BS out on all fronts. It is those of us who are willing to be active, engaged, and involved and organizing for a better tomorrow. And that's what we got to keep doing no matter what. Who watches The Walking Dead? Anybody watching Walking Dead? I mean, because that is the end of the world. Like that is awful. I mean, how many situations you got to be in where all certainty of death and the end of civilization of everything as you know it, and yet they keep going. They find their bit of humanity where they can, and they try to build whatever piece of themselves. So no, I'm not saying this is a zombie apocalypse and I got to rip somebody's throat out because somebody might try to rape my son. I mean, if you leave kids around Donald Trump, you never know what might happen. I mean, Bill Clinton rode the Lolita Express too, so you never know. You might have to keep kids away from all of them. Hide your kids, hide your wives, hide your husbands. I mean, who knows? Hide your boy children, hide your girl children. You never know what might happen. But being real serious though, we are being fed. We're being fed something that is creating a massive panic and hysteria. It's feeding into our collective anxiety of what we need to do next in this country, right? Like, and this happens every election cycle. Like, oh my God, the fate of the world is in our hands. We have to go vote. And fear can be a useful tool for doing things. However, in this instance, what we have happening right now, we have a Democratic Party that was so heavy-handed in trying to manipulate a particular outcome. Now, I'm not the conspiracy theorist type, right? But the more and more we have these leaks coming out, and the more and more we see the things that people speculated and just could not definitively be proven, I hear y'all CNN, you don't actually feed people questions except for when you do. Donna, you got emails from both campaigns, but did you pass information to both campaigns? Let's just keep it all real. I mean, the lack of this is the type of things that feeds into the mistrust that people have for Hillary Clinton, but also what people have for the DNC as a whole, right? Because instead of admitting, and let's be real, Hillary Clinton admitted them emails was real. How do I know she admitted them emails were real? Because when she got asked the question about an alleged email, right? An email that allegedly said she said blah, 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 Lincoln. She goes, oh, yeah. I was talking about Abraham Lincoln and blah, 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 and this and that. If it was a fake email, how the hell is she going to remember talking about it? Like, let's just be real here. Her campaign spent all day, oh, it's fake, or oh, we can't figure out what's fake, and da-da-da-da-da, and they plant stories. How do we know you plant stories? Because we got the emails to prove y'all plant stories. We got the emails to prove that y'all been colluding all the way up and down the pipeline since the beginning of the primary. Since the primary, even before it officially began. Y'all was colluded and doing this, that, and the other to make sure that you had the deck stacked right. But here's the problem. When you so damn heavy-handed, when you work in such a fashion to dictate a particular outcome without any cause of concern for what the long-term consequences are of your actions, you have the situation we have now. Possible low turnout, a base that don't want nothing to do with you, and a craptastic opponent on the other side. It is great that all these Republicans, these generals, these people from the Bush administration want to support Hillary Clinton. You know, we even got Glenn Beck on our team. Oh, yeah, it's National Coming Out Day. I didn't tell y'all, did y'all? I'm coming out. I'm coming out. I'm coming out. It's National Coming Out today. I'm coming out as a Hillary supporter. I can't even keep a straight face with that one. Like, I can't even keep a straight face. Like, I had you, didn't I? I'm in a great mood tonight. And my daughter was like, you were hysterical. Like, you're giddy. Like your anxiety is so bad. And I have no qualms talking about this. Like, I do have anxiety. I've been going to counseling all since the summer. I do have anxiety. I have frustration tolerance. Yeah, I have issues in situations that I cannot absolutely control. I'm gonna keep it real. You know, a lot of us do in the world today. And I think that politicians rely on that. They rely on being able to, you know, people worry about where their next paycheck is going to come from. People worry about different things that go on in their lives, and they play to that and try to manipulate you to vote a certain way. You know, now we have, if you're a black voter, or even with Latino voters, you may experience this as well. I'm not sure. But, you know, I'm not going to try and speak for nobody. But I can say as a black voter, you know, they will trot out John Lewis with the quickness to tell us about how he got his head beat in. He suffered for us to vote. My G, my family's from up north. We not from the South. So, in my immediate family, either way, and this might be a tad on the ignorant side to say, but please stop acting like that. Every black person in America could not vote until 1965 when the Voting Rights Act was passed. Please. My grandma voted plenty in New York City. I'm just saying. So did my granddad. My mom and my daddy voted back in the day. Well, actually, no, they were kind of radical and didn't believe in the system. So, not really. My mom's always been a Green Party voter when she did vote, though. But seriously, my grandparents voted. I mean, they're about to say they're contemporaries of John Lewis, but they weren't living in the Deep South. And that is something else that we do not talk about. I'm going to touch on that too. I'm going to touch on a lot of stuff. So if you guys want to call in and jump in on some of this, you can, or you can just listen to me go, because this is what I'm going to do. So we have a supernova. We have an explode. We have a type 2 supernova in progress. We are at the eye of the storm right now. And with a type 2 supernova, before it explodes and blows the shit out of everything, oops, excuse my language, it implodes. It sucks everything in, right? It's a vacuum. So I was watching Voltron this weekend with my kids. You know, it's a remake. Apparently Netflix has a lot of original programming. I've been kind of lazy and actually haven't watched Netflix. Finally watched Luke Cage. Luke Cage. But we watched there's a new Voltron. They remade Voltron. Very good. Not the same as the original. My original will always take place, you know, has special place in my heart, but this was good. But there was a scene where, you know, you got the 5 lions and they have to try and the castle is a ship. So the ship is being, you know, driven into an exploding star, a supernova. And so I'm sitting here watching it. And I'm watching how it's just sucking everything in, right? It's just sucking in everything that it can. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter, you know, what the matter, you know, what it is. It's just sucking in everything. And that's like this political cycle that we're in, right? We're at this point now, you know, supposedly the Democrats are the good guys and the Republicans are the bad guys. The lines are blurred. And everybody's been sucked into this crap show, and we don't have a way out. And what's going to happen is, you know, someone's going to win, but really we're all going to lose. Because we have this duopoly, right? And we have this system that is dependent upon these two parties functioning a certain way, allegedly, presumably. You know, work with me here. We can argue, you know, the merits of whether or not the system should be that way, but we do. We have a system that is a certain way. And without one of them functioning, even in its dysfunctional manner that it's been functioning, you know, the Republicans have been functioning in a dysfunctional state for quite some time now. And now they are imploding. But the Democrats are trying to overcompensate. And by trying to overcompensate, we have a complete system that's being thrown out of whack. Now, here is where, you know, progressives who have decided they're going to stay within the party and do some work, or Green Party, or if you're, you know, PSL or Working World Party, or whatever your focus, if you're an independent, whatever your focus is. But if you have candidates that you are trying to organize and work with, there is a situation right now with less than 30 days to go where if you can get mobilized and engaged, we might really see some stuff happening because people are pissed. People are disgusted with what's going on. You got Trump supporters protesting the RNC themselves. Like there's so much going on right now. Like the field is now blown wide open. And the hubris, the Clinton campaign, everybody can say like, oh, well, clearly he's bad, he's awful, you have to get with us, you know? But I mean, that if you do that, that's fine. You know, do what you feel like you have to do to survive the end of the world, because we all have to make peace at the end of the day with what we do. But please believe that it is okay to define things on your own terms and fight for a better tomorrow. Isn't that what Rick and the Rickettes do on The Walking Dead? They sure are in some deep stuff all the time, but they find a way. I mean, besides the fact that we know the show that wasn't getting canceled, who really thought they were going to get out of Terminus alive? But they did. And they fought another day and found a safe haven until that got blown up to pieces. So, I mean, that's the beauty of humanity. We're not quite cockroaches, but we have a great way of surviving and making it through to the next time. I know I'm on one tonight, but it's interesting. So this whole notion, like, right, I have a caller. What is your name? Where you're calling from? What's your comment or question?
Yes, hello. This is Jared from Downtown, PA, a first-time caller. I
Hi,
usually
Jared.
call
Thank
on
you for
the
calling.
Men's Show and other talk shows. Nice to talk with you.
Thank you.
I'm calling. Pretty good. I'm calling about the debate and the freak show. I'm going to call it. It's more of a freak show. The whole thing was awful to watch. There was no real substance brought up in the debates. Climate change wasn't even brought up as a question. I think Hillary Clinton actually mentions that she still supports the no-fly zone in Syria, which is really scary because that could really get us into a major conflict with Russia, Syria, and Iran if she were to actually implement that. I don't know why she's saying that insane stuff she's saying. But yeah, the whole debate was just a total joke, and then you had Trump walking around there acting like a gorilla or something. He was just, I don't know what's going on. He's losing his brain. But yeah, the whole debate was just a joke, bro. What did you think of it?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for calling in. Definitely appreciate you. Hope you call in again. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm going to get up because, like I said, I did some commentary last night on the debate. It's very, very thorough analysis. But I will say I absolutely agree. It was a complete freak show is a great way, and it keeps me from cursing. It keeps me honest with my iTunes rating. But freak show is absolutely, right. It's substantive. It sucks substantively. I mean, if any of those people really were undecided voters, I mean, Donald Trump came off awful. I mean, he did really seem like a creep. Like if you so let me just get into some of the vitriol because I mean there's been so much conversation about it and if anyone thinks that the NBC or whomever was sitting, they were sitting on that tape of him. They sat on that tape of him until there was an opportune time, right? And they used the moment when the latest leaks start coming out to release that tape, and that's all anyone can talk about. And to just kind of take a segue, to get really serious for a moment, this whole conversation, this has become political theater, and it's very disgusting to me personally how the topics and the very real lived experiences of so many have become, a cannon fodder for this war between two rich people who really, at the end of the day, don't, they're still going to be fine whether they win or lose this. But it's a lot of us, the everyday Americans. Did y'all catch that email? Everyday Americans, she's sick of us. Yeah. So it's the everyday Americans who really have a lot at stake with elections. And again, we need to get it in our head that it's not just presidential elections that matter. It is congressional, state, local, county. These elections absolutely matter. And we have to change the way we engage with the system that governs us. We have to. It is a moral imperative, regardless of who you vote for, whether you go third party, you abstain, you vote for one of the two, main party candidates, regardless of what you do, we have to change the way we engage in other election cycles. We have to. That includes showing up at city council meetings. If you can't, in a lot of places, if you can't show up at a city council meeting, they have the minutes online. You can submit comments online. You can email your state legislator. You can start a petition with your own community and get your city council person to actually do something that needs to be done in your community. Like, you have the power to do that. So be serious for a moment. But so I absolutely agree about the debate, and I'll definitely get a link up to after the show. I'll get a link up to my commentary because, like I said earlier on, I got to talk with Dr. Trish Callender. She's a political analyst, and she's president and CEO of Spanish Strategies. You know, really awesome woman. She dropped a piece in Huffington Post, I think either Sunday night right after the debate, or yesterday morning, doing some really great coverage of the debate. But it didn't do anything. It actually made me really sad for the country. It made me really sad for people who really believe in both parties. And it definitely showed, one, why we need to have the other candidates participating in the debate, because then it's not so polarizing anymore. Because that was just a personal pissing contest between the two of them. Well, really between them and Bill Clinton. Right, because really it's like Hillary Clinton and the moderators and Bill Clinton against Trump. That's really what ends up happening. And I really think strategically that Trump is just not skilled enough, because he had some attacks, and people can argue about whether they're valid or not. But he had some attacks that they just came off. He just came off creepy. His stage presence, just so much. So I will definitely make sure I get that link up, because it's about an hour long. It's about 45 minutes to an hour of commentary on the debate and stuff. But I just want to talk about the state of where we're at right now, because there are more and more people. Like I said, Glenn Beck is talking about, folks need to not support Trump. I was surprised he didn't, suggest people support Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate. But, it seems to be, folks are leaning towards him. And this should scare us even more, actually. Mike Pence should scare us. And the fact that not only the quote unquote moderate Republicans were swinging, to the Democratic nominee, but the fact that the right wing, the far racist, homophobic, anti-choice right wing are swinging this way. Because here becomes the problem. Because with them, with their donors, with their policymakers, here becomes the problem. Because now we have a party that has already swung center right to get that attention, to get those votes. Where do the liberals, the real left, the progressives, where do the rest of us go? Where do we belong? Because there's no way in hell we can coexist with Glenn Beck. There's no way in hell that we can coexist with all these different people coming out of the Bush administration who are not only supporting her, but some are even fundraising for her. Because we already, she talked on during, Hillary Clinton talked about being able to, being committed to getting rid of Citizens United. They always talk about Citizens United. They never talk about McCutcheon v. SPC, which was a 2014 case in the vein of Citizens United. That's the case that removed aggregate donation limits. And as of, I think it was October 2015. I don't know if they've done an updated, analysis of this, but at the start of this election cycle, she was the candidate that had most heavily exploited that ruling and that opening in the donations. So how can we trust someone to fix a system that they most definitely are exploiting and benefiting from? And how can I trust you, right, Miss? I'm going to, stand with the mothers, and she needs to renounce Glenn Beck. She needs to renounce a lot of the people who are now coming out down in her side. Renounce, denounce, like seriously, because Glenn Beck is a racist. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is a homophobe. He's a racist. He's a classist. There's so much so wrong with Glenn Beck. And this today is the epitome of this. This is the end of the world. He has, what is it? Was it the prosecutor who prosecuted them for what is it? Not Whitewater. This is insane. We spent all these years being told that they hate them. The Republicans hate them because of, they've created all these right-wing conspiracies. This is how this has all been political theater the last several decades. This is how you know. And we have had this heavy-handed action to fabricate this accomplishment of the first woman president, instead of allowing someone to exist. Because here's the thing, instead of giving people the joy of actually experiencing this, right? Like when Barack Obama ran for office, he stayed away from the fact that he'd be the first Black, Democratic nominee. He did not, even though race was an issue, it was an issue because it was put upon him, not because he himself made it an issue. The Clinton campaign and their ilk have taken gender and taken identity and worn it, and not as a badge of honor. No. As some annoying Juicy Couture throwback sweatsuit that you just wish somebody would never ever wear again. It is beyond. It's not even that I feel like someone has to downplay their gender or their sexuality or anything to get someplace. Not at all. Because many of us have said at times, I would love to be nothing more than enthusiastic and jumping through the moon. I would love to be working, because the fact that my kids they're willing to work on political campaigns, right? I saw that in the primary with Bernie Sanders. I would love to be working on the campaign of the first woman, major party nominee. I would love to be doing that with my daughter right now, right? I would love for my daughter, who will be of age to vote in 2020. I would love to be doing this with her right now. This would be great for her. You think either one of us care? Like, seriously. Because the way that the entitlement, the hubris, the way this has happened, I'm just sitting here like, okay, well, keep bumping her up in the polls. Hopefully Trump crashes and burns, and then everybody can feel comfortable voting for Jill Stein, who wants to vote for her. That's really my feeling right now. And I understand that, Al Gore's on the trail now. Shout out to Big Al. Man, bear, pig. Anybody watch South Park? Anybody? Okay. Well, Al Gore, they brought out Al Gore. Al Gore is in Florida, reminding everyone of why voting is so important. Every vote matters. Yeah. It also matters that you're a good candidate, that you run a good campaign, that you got a tight ground game, and that you got a good VP nominee running with you, and not that whack-tastic dude that Al had with him back in 2000. Also, it would be pretty good if you can carry your home state. That makes for a good candidate too. You know what I'm saying? But so it's very interesting, having Al Gore out there. Like, Hillary Clinton's already proven that she can do what Al Gore couldn't, right? She's bringing in those conservative Democrats, aka Republicans, in the presidential election. She's proving she can get those people. So she's showing that she can do what he can't do. But there was a piece I read recently that said that her ground game, that both her and Trump, their ground games are lacking in comparison to President Obama. And I think that there's been too much focus on personality. There's been too much focus on being personal, on slinging mud, on fear. Obama worked so well. We can talk about the policy, we can talk about what we don't like and XYZ, you know what I'm saying? But he worked, as to quote Stacey Hopkins, shout out to Stacey Hopkins, Obama for America was a work of art. 2008, the ground game, the engaging of grassroots action, it was a work of art. It was beautiful, it was masterful, it was effortless. And that is why people turned out to vote, because people felt engaged. They felt like they were doing something. They felt a part of a process. Now, most of us want to just hide under the covers and pray this all goes away. This is just a bad B-rated movie, with Jack Black or somebody in it. I mean, this is the end. Or it's apocalypse now. I don't know. But think about it. Like at this point, it's just, what outcome do you want to see, right? Because we've seen what we've seen come out of the WikiLeaks, the most recent drops, and that's not. I mean, unfortunately, they're not going to change. They're not going to admit they're wrong. All they're going to do is Russia bad, Russia hacks. Well, guess what, America? America hacks too. And apparently America is the biggest damn hacker in the world. America, apparently it is easier to be on the offense in cybersecurity than it is to be on the defense. America actually, I just read this, the United States actually has a pact, a no hacking pact with China that it recently entered. Apparently they didn't do that with Russia. So if Russia is in fact interfering with this election, this is the chicken coming home to roost, to quote Malcolm X. The U.S. has been interfering in elections for at least the last 100 years or so. I mean, we've been overthrowing democratically elected governments, whether we through the CIA sponsoring other totalitarian regimes to do so, or just outright interference. And you know, like I said, there are submarines, and this came out in some of the information that came out with Edward Snowden in 2013, that there are submarines. And there are some of these submarines are located near, you know, Russian territory, to be able to pick up the cables. You know, this is used for spies. I mean, we still have spies. We still have spies who spy on other countries for information. And one of the things that was interesting with the pact with China was the fact that China had started to hack private companies, right? Private, you know, Google, Yahoo, things of that nature, whatever. And that was like unprecedented. You don't hack private companies or proprietary. So private companies or proprietary information is a no. But governments, politics, etc. is A-okay. Got it. I really would love, so if anybody out there knows anyone who's a cybersecurity expert, oh, you probably can't talk to me on the record then, huh? But, or if anyone has actually read about this stuff, it'd be really great if we could chop it up sometime. But just from some of the stuff I read, you know, shout out to my girl who helped me do some research earlier. You're the best. But seriously, you know, we're being so freaked out that Russia may have hacked us and released this information, and there's not really a conversation about the content, the substance, right? I agree. There needs to be conversation about having a foreign power, potentially the possibility of a foreign power hacking us. I mean, that is pretty, you know, freakish, because as of right now, all it is someone releasing information to help us be informed. But what happens, I mean, I do think there is a valuable conversation to have, but maybe the United States needs to stop flexing their muscles so damn hard and interfering with everybody else's stuff, and then maybe they leave us alone. Like, if you're instigating, if you're inviting yourself into other people's situations, why would they not then, you know, in turn, to defend themselves, do the same, you know, going back? So so this whole Russia thing, I'm just like, whatever. You still lied. You still cheated. You still, you know, despite the fact that you claimed you were neutral, you weren't. You still planted stories that Bernie Sanders was racist or was white people only. You still, you know, forwarded emails that you got from being on an undisclosed email list with one campaign to the other. You know, there's all this stuff that still happens. So we can sit here and point fingers at the Republicans and go, ha, ha, ha. We can laugh at, and when I'm saying we, it's just that general we that people use when they talk. You know, Democrats can sit here and laugh at the Republicans like, your party's a shit show. Come join us. It's a freak show. Sorry, it's a freak show. Come join us. We're better. Ha ha ha. But you're so busy. Ha ha ha. That your kingdom is burning around you. Like, what are you going to have? This is a scorched earth scenario. What are you going to have at the end of the day? You know, what is going to be there? And you know, and I think that we've been talking about this, right? With the and if anyone, I got a chance. So much going on. Got a chance to watch 13th. By Ava DuVernay. It's another, no, this is not a Netflix promo, but you know, there is some good content on there. They had the documentary 13th about 13th Amendment and the rise of mass incarceration, you know, from slavery to now, is excellent. It's excellent. Watched it with the kids. That's how I ended up watching Voltron in the first place. They told me it was too woke. It was too woke too early on Sunday, so we watched it yesterday. It's great. But one of the things, you know, you look at, and they really go deep into the rise of, you know, the kind of tough on crime Democrat, a la, you know, a la Bill Clinton. Doesn't really get too deep into the centrist, the DLC and the centrist history. It doesn't really get into that, but you know, that's pretty well established, and we've seen that turning tide of Democrats. Democrats were getting their butts kicked from Nixon on, and you know, you kind of had that break in there with Jimmy Carter. That didn't last. So when you come on the heels of Reagan, you come on the heels of Bush, you gotta be bigger and badder than the bitch. You gotta have a big gun, you know, like the Chronicles of Riddick. Who's the bigger killer, right? Like you gotta out tough the tough guys, and so we had this increase. So what does that matter? So we talked about how we've seen the Democratic Party go center right. right? It's become more of a centrist party. And we've seen it go, a little further right now. Obama in some areas, helped bring it back a little bit. But in many ways, he furthered some of the worst policies of the George Bush administration, W's administration. We've seen Democrats double down on things like the Patriot Act. I mean, Patriot Act 1 and 2 are disastrous. Obama signed the Detention Act. There are so many different things that happened that you would think about as totalitarian or fascist, weapons to be used by the federal government came under George Bush, but it came with the blessing of Democrats in Congress. And then it was reauthorized and it was, kicked up a notch under, our new Democratic administration. So where do the rest of us go and what do we do? And so we need to stop just handing over the vote because centrist Democrats say to us, well, the Republicans are really awful. This is going to happen. Everything's bad. The Supreme Court, you just got to vote. 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 No, I don't just have to give you my vote. I don't just have to give you my manpower, my labor, my woman power. I don't. They always say Black women lead, right? I mean, that's been one of the biggest things that come out of the last several elections. We turn out, especially when we talk about the left, we turn out in huge numbers in proportion to other voters, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I'm not a mule. I don't have to do anything for you. None of us do, right? We've seen all these progressive organizations. We've seen the Working Families Party. We've seen Move On. We've seen DFA. We've seen so many organizations give their credibility. We've seen Bernie Sanders do it, right? Give their credibility to the Clinton machine. And for what in return? This pissing contest with Donald Trump? I mean, we, like the caller said before, we've had no questions about in the presidential elections anyway. We haven't had a meaningful conversation on race and economic issues. We talk about jobs, but that's just such an amorphous concept. We talk about the middle class as, people under $250,000. And I understand where those numbers come from, but they're still total crap and need to change. I mean, because a family that's making, $250,000 and a family that's making $50,000, $25,000 are not in the same, they're not in the same scenario. It should not all be lumped together at all. Those concerns and issues are very different. And no, presidents can't, make policy to serve everyone, but at the same time, our legislatures can, our state and local bodies can, and we need to act accordingly. But we have these unholy alliances forming, and it's very interesting. It's very disconcerting as we continue to move forward. And everyone's so stuck on this moral imperative to defeat Trump. Okay, let's defeat Trump. Let's defeat Pence, because Pence really scares me. Let's defeat the Republicans. Let's win the presidency for Hillary Clinton. Let's do this for Hillary. Let's have her back, because that's what this is all about, right? This is all about her. This is absolutely, don't be confused any other way. This is not about women. This is not about anything, because what else did we see come out in the emails, right? They were planning on sabotaging the Run Warren Will Run group. So it's not about any woman. It's about a particular woman. Same thing when we saw, her lack of support for Zephyr Teachout when she ran for governor against Baby Cuomo, right? It's every woman when it's her, not when it's someone else that may stand in the way of a particular issue, policy, or personal interest that she has at stake. And that's my problem. And as we go forward, like I said, I never tell anyone how to vote. I'm going to go off and do what I'm going to do, but I'm never going to tell you how to vote, because I actually understand talking to people how they feel. Like one of my best friends from law school, we talk all the time about this, and she's a girl, guess what, I'm with her. And I'm going to be honest. If I lived in one of these battleground communities, I may be tempted to be the same. Because it's very different. I live in Georgia. Even with, just this weekend, even with all the stuff that came about of Trump, the Georgia Republicans doubled down. Alabama Republicans are doubling down. People have doubled down on him. So, and the ground game is non-existent for everyone else. So I have the right. I can vote. I don't feel emotionally blackmailed into voting other than the way my gut is telling me what to do. And that's what's happening. When I was talking to my girl earlier, I said I have the privilege. But really, it's not that I don't have it's not that I have a privilege. I guess you can look at not being emotionally blackmailed as a privilege, right? Not being accosted on a daily basis, assaulted with threats of legitimacy and morality if you don't vote a certain way. I guess we could call that privilege, but it's not that we're privileged for not voting for the Democratic nominee. It's that we're refusing to be bullied. This is self-determination. This is self-preservation. This is self-determination. So I hear what everyone's saying. They want to defeat fascism. There is a very interesting article that talks about 14 different facets of fascism. And it ranks, countries and stuff. And America has 14 out of 14. We need to stop allowing, and this is why, I'm a growing outlet, the way of Noah. The content that I'm trying to build and provide. But you have the Benjamin Dixon Show, you have Tim Black, you have other groups, you have the Real Progressives, you have other groups out there that are really working. Of course, we have Democracy Now. Kind of used to have TYT, but whatever. But we're building out opportunities to have conversations that challenge mainstream narratives because they're so problematic. I mean, this is borderline brainwashing with the stuff that's happening now. Like, to go back to what has happened with all the conversation around sexual assault, sexual harassment. I understand and I appreciate the fact that there are women who felt that they were given space to speak out confidently about things that have been endured and been suffered or experienced in silence. But there is a way this conversation that's been happening that's very manipulative. It's dishonest. And I'm not talking about different individual people sharing their stories. I'm talking about the campaigns and the media. The campaigns, both campaigns, and the media. Hillary's campaign and Donald's campaign. And the way the media, the way they're handling this narrative, I'm sorry. I have said it before, what Bill Clinton has done. And I understand, everyone hold on a second, because I try to do this on Twitter, and Twitter's not always the best place to make good points. So I don't believe the fact that a man having an affair or doing something can automatically be imputed against his wife. Okay, that's first line. But, or however, hang in there with me. When you enable that bad actor to do certain things, that reflects on you personally and your choice and judgment. Also, when you are choosing, and several of you made this point to me on Twitter, and I absolutely agree. Didn't get a chance to make the point because y'all jumped in my attempt to do a thread, but that's okay. Excellent point, though. When you're talking about putting that person, especially when you're talking about being administration that's empowering of women, and you're talking about someone that has frustrated opportunity, possibility, and advancement of women in many ways, that also needs to be called into question. So I think there's a way strategically to do this that has not yet been done by either camp. Because what Donald Trump did with bringing out, some of Bill Clinton's alleged victims, I thought was disgusting and exploitive. Now, I understand these women, and these are women who have been shamed and shooed away from the spotlight. These women who've been publicly, castigated and dogged. And based on their stories, Hillary Clinton has taken part of that. So I understand maybe from that perspective why they would want to have a spotlight to finally have a voice, right? Because they feel that they've been wrong, and more than likely they were on some level. But the way the Trump campaign is capitalizing on it is what disgusts me, because he has bad behavior of his own, and he's trying to get out of it by bringing up the bad behavior of someone else. And none of these campaigns are concerned with any of these women involved. People are dragging the names and experiences of other people through the mud for votes, for political points. It is the lowest of the low right now. And right now, while all this is going on, you have actions with Fight for 15 workers, with Fight for 15 organizers, demanding that organizations like McDonald's actually not only uphold but enforce their sexual harassment policies. There was some statistic I saw, this might not be absolutely correct because I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think it was about 40% of women working in low-wage positions experience sexual harassment of some degree. And in some instances, it's repeated. And if you don't have, if your job depends upon what you're doing, right? I mean, not your job depends upon what you're doing. If your job depends upon that person that's doing it and you need that job, if you have a corporation, if you have a management structure that's not actually, don't have your back on shit, I gotta stop because I'm on the road tonight and I'm sorry. It's just on stuff that is illegal, stuff that's impermissible, that should not be occurring, that's immoral, that's devaluing to human beings. And let's be clear, men, can be subject to sexual assault and sexual harassment too. But in having these conversations, we're so focused on how this affects this privileged woman in power, who may or may not have had something to do with actually objectifying and subjugating these other women, that we don't have the same desire to stand by the hundreds and thousands of women across the country every day who are going through these experiences in their workplace. I challenge people who are so outraged by something that Trump has said. And let's just be clear, Trump is the jerk he has always been. You think Hillary and Bill didn't know who this was? You think Bill Clinton didn't know who he was when he sat down in, what was it, June, July of 2015 and decided to talk to him about running for president? You think he didn't know who he was talking to? All this, oh my God, he said the N-word, where are the tapes? You people really don't think they don't know who they're dealing with? They know exactly who they're dealing with. Why? Because they've been hanging out with him. They was front and center at his, I mean, you don't just go front and center. Who goes to people's weddings that they don't like? Oh, wait. Unless they're your political donors and you need some of that money they got. You need some of that guap. Maybe then you go there. But all this is it's a farce. It is a farce. And here we are now. Like I said, we are 4 weeks away from the general election. Again, coming up in 12 minutes, if you want to see some real politics happening. I mean, I know a lot of people have their own issues and doubts. I have plenty of issues and doubts with Jill Stein, but I definitely think if you want to see mature conversation happening right now, she's more mature than the rest of them. I think she has some moments herself. And again, I'm not going to, sugarcoat anybody, but overall, I think what is happening with her campaign, what's happening with some of the lesser known campaigns, shout out to Gloria LaRiva and Eugene Puryear, the Lamont Lilly ticket also with the Working World's Party. I really do think that there is really honest discourse and conversation, and there are meaningful opportunities for us to build for those next steps, whether it's looking towards mayoral elections happening coming up next year. Oh yeah, if you were in New York and you want to vote in the primary, right? The mayoral primary happens, in 2017, sometime in the springtime. I believe today is the deadline. It's either today or tomorrow. Check today or tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote. Like, how arbitrary, arcane, asinine is that? We saw the same thing happen in the presidential primary, same thing with mayoral primary. But progressives need to move, and we need to move the needle, and we can't sit here and wait for Democrats to realize that we're that shy best friend that has always held them down in the 80s movie, and they should really pick us over the pretty, popular girl. No, we don't got time for that. Like, seriously. like we don't have time for that. We don't have time for any more unholy alliances. We don't have time for problematic rhetoric and allegiances. We have to move the needle. So if you do feel that it's your moral imperative to vote against Trump, do you? But if you out there shilling for Hillary, I'm sorry, God bless your soul, and you made your bed and you gonna lie on it, because I'm tired. I'm tired of this blame game. I'm tired of this little pity fight that's going on, because instead of building up a strong movement, I mean, we really had the potential for something beautiful, because even though there was the fierce battle between Hillary and Bernie that there was in the primary, it was very respectful comparatively to what is happening now. I mean, yes, we see what's coming out in the wash, but the Democrats chose to engage a particular way way before the first ballots were even cast. They chose this engagement. They chose to suppress, and the way they suppressed the primary, I kept saying to people, the primary turnaround is way down compared to 2008 when Barack Obama, primary. I had one idiot in particular who thinks he knows everything, who I had to unfollow, which I generally don't unfollow people, but I had to unfollow this jerk. well, primary, that has never proven anything. Look at what happened with McGovern and da-da-da-da. Everyone who is a seasoned political analyst, Nate Silver and all the rest of you, you just need to walk off a short pier, like ASAP, because the conventional wisdom of the old no longer applies. We are in a very different cycle. We are in a very different world politically. Even with the rise of the 24, even the way news is now as compared to what it was in 2008 and 2012, as well as social media, the game is completely different. And you cannot just sit here and say, well, what happened in the primary has no bearing on the general election. What happened in the primary absolutely has bearing on what's happening now in the general election. What happened at the DNC absolutely has bearing on what's happening now in the general election. And the fact that Democrats are having, trouble making sure they're going to have reliable turnout where need be is absolutely directly related to the way they have engaged all the way through this election cycle. And we can say, oh, politics is dirty, oh, this, that, and the other. But when you are grimy, when you are nasty, and when you are so transparent that we see you, we see what you're doing. We've seen what you've done. Here we are, though. So where do we go from here? And that is the conversation we're going to continue happening. Where do we go from here? And how do we organize for meaningful and sustainable long-term change? How do we help get good people elected, like Jesse Smith in Alabama 3rd Congressional District? Jesse's running against an avowed Donald Trump supporter who has doubled down on that support, among other things. Jesse is a vet. Jesse is awesome, and I got to try and get Jesse on here ahead of Election Day. We have Attica Scott out in Kentucky running for, I think she's running for state representative. I've already talked so much about what's happening in Missouri, and this is just to kind of flip back before I close out, the hypocrisy of Democrats, because we have people all over the country right now, people in positions of power denouncing Trump, speaking out against him, and yet they themselves either have been engaged or are engaged in situations where they exploit their power sexually with people under them, or they're sexually assaulting people. They have sexually assaulted people. They're standing by or supporting people who have been accused or proven to sexually assault people, sexual harassment, stalking, all types of things. Right now in Missouri, you have Lacey Clay, a congressional, member of the CBC, standing by not once, not twice, but 3 times accused rapist, Democrat. Just recently, these are credible allegations by all accounts. If just the mere language of saying things alone is enough, then the fact that there are credible allegations against someone, that should be enough for you to step back from them. And no, they have doubled down in so many instances and cases. Maureen Dowd actually did an interview recently where she talked about how feminism died a little bit under Bill Clinton, because so many women, including Hillary Clinton, including Madeleine Albright, gave up a piece of their dignity, a piece of their they gave up their reputation to stand by him, because, like Al Gore, they all bought into the whole, I didn't do it, I don't know that woman, I didn't do it, only for it to come out that he was lying. And they all put themselves, and you had women who were at the forefront of their careers and at these different levels of government, put themselves on the line for that man, only for it to turn out that he did lie. And not only did he lie, he abused his power to sexually harass and assault a young woman in his office. Now we can talk about how, well, Monica wanted it. You know what? There's a long way to go in talking about rape culture and other stuff. There's a long way to go in terms of politics yet still. But we are on the verge of a new day. 2018, 2017, there are major elections coming up. We need a change. And that's where we're going to continue. We're not going to race to the bottom. We're not racing to the bottom with Hillary and Donald. We're building. We are building. We're going to be stronger than ever. We're going to come back like Voltron. 5 lions come together. All right, I'm out. Make sure to stay for Ben after the Green Party Town Hall. All right? Peace.
The way.